morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on the Women's Roundtable Discussion. We want to talk about the typhoid or diarrhea breakout that is in Luveve and how it is impacting the genders, us, Tino Mama Kapoor. We have today Amagesi Etu, who are coming to talk at length about this, and I will be the moderator. My name is Patience Pat-Perry. Here with me, Silo Baba, or Patrick Luveve, who's the Divisional Environment Health Officer at Bulawayo City Council. Silo Sisi, or Abigail Sisiva, she's with BUPRA, and she's the Gender Officer. And then Silo Sisi Unegiwe, Nube Chawalala, who's a Human Rights Defender. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
The city of Bulawayo has been facing water challenges for a number of years. Each year we anticipate a call from our city council to tell us about water rationing. This year we are down to 6 days of water cuts, and in May we got a call. A call was raised in Luveve, the water quality is not great. And since then, there's been a back and forth between the residents and the city council. And a number of cases have been reported. There have been fatalities as well. And today, Ubamube will clarify on that figure because there's a slight variation on those figures. How many people are sick and how many lives have been lost? And what is the way forward? What are we going to do? Abigail will talk about what the impact has been for the women in that area. And Unigiwe will also talk on from a legal perspective, right? So all our conversations here are live. Please feel free to join into the conversation and send your comments, your questions. They are here to ask. Each representative here will have 7 minutes to present what they have to say, and then we will question that. So if you could start, and you'll be speaking, we'll start with Ibupra, right, Abigail? You're going to be talking about the gendered impact on the typhoid outbreak in Luveve and its toll on women in the area.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, viewers. As she has mentioned that I'll talk about the effects that this typhoid outbreak, as we would like to call it as BUPRA, has caused or affected the women in the area of Luveve. Of course, we have to acknowledge that all the genders have been affected, both male, females, the children, and both boys and girls. But there is an emphasis on how women have been affected. As you all know that women carry the caregiving burden, like across the globe. They have what we call gender roles that make them more susceptible to diseases. If there are pandemics, outbreaks, women are mostly affected. And if we look at the issue of Luveve, when we visited the BUPRA, we had reports that the symptoms included vomiting, diarrhea, severe stomach pains, and the likes. And that has a negative impact on the women because, as I mentioned, that they have the caregiving role, and which means that the caregiving burden was increased on the women in Luveve because they had to take care of the sick. As you all know that in the household, the woman is responsible for taking care of both her husband, the children, and other family members. So, as some residents reported that some of them, they spent even the whole night during the first days of the outbreak. They spent the whole night in the toilet, and you can imagine. And which means the women had to be awake, even if you're not affected, you had to be awake to take care of the children, and mostly it was the little ones that were affected. So the women had to take care of them, assist them by getting them to the toilets and the stuff. So that burden was really increased amongst the women in Luveve. And also the general gender roles of women, in, that is cleaning, washing, and cooking and the stuff, which means that burden was increased on women. Because during such an outbreak, when family members are vomiting, having diarrhea, they are spending hours in the toilet, which means that toilet needed to be cleaned more often. And who does that is the woman. So they that burden to clean the toilet and going after the kids. If you clean the toilet, even if you're not affected by the outbreak from drinking water as a woman, which means you'll be affected, because after maybe cleaning the mess of the children, you can contract the disease, though we don't know how it is being contracted since it hasn't been really confirmed yet. And also the issue of taking the sick to the hospital. This is also the women's role in the society. So women had that burden. I remember when Bupra visited Luveve, we went to the clinic, you could see women everywhere. They were holding 2, 3 children and other family members. They had that role to take them to the clinic, and it's a really strange because it takes so much time and energy for women to leave other gender roles that are so much in the home, like you have to wash, clean and the stuff, but they had to abandon that and take the sick to the hospital, and it took more productive time from the women as they were seen, and some of them had to be taken further, even to Mpilo Hospital. And you can imagine that distance from Luveve to Mpilo Hospital, and transport was a scare during lockdown, so it was really difficult for the women also. And also being constantly in the public hospital further exposes women to the risk of contracting coronavirus because of being constantly in the public places. And also there was loss of economic activity for women. I remember when I visited one of the homes, some women narrated that she couldn't continue with the vending that she was doing at the gate of her house because she wasn't feeling well. The kids weren't feeling well. She had to rush the kids to the toilet. They were vomiting on the blankets. She had to take care of all of that, and which means that the source of livelihood of that woman was affected. Another woman also had narrated to us that she had missed 3 weeks of work, and you can imagine that much of work if you are missing, which means her career could be affected. And you may be considered incompetent at work or maybe demoted or something. A lot of things could happen because it was without a notice. And this further, it could increase the gap in the employment sector between the males and the females. And even if you're not the one sick, because you have to take care of the family, you could miss work as a woman also. And the fact that the residents of Luveve have lost trust in the quality of water from Loy City Council, which means they now have to take cautionary measures to try and maybe purify the water to some extent for potable use, which means someone has to boil water for drinking, and that's a lot of strain, and who does that is the women. And you can imagine someone wanting to boil even at least 5 buckets or 2 buckets of water for drinking. It's a lot of strain. Maybe you have a pot that can only carry 10 liters. You have to boil 1 bucket 2 times. And that's also a strain again because the energy sources are now very expensive currently, which means someone maybe has to go an extra mile to look for alternative sources of energy, like firewood. And looking for firewood further exposes women to issues like rape. Like we had sometimes in Country Park earlier this year, women were raped while searching for firewood. So it's a really scare for women because you can't afford to constantly be boiling water with much expensive electricity. Some families live about 5 of them, and the electricity bill will be very high. And also extra expenses were also incurred, and women were greatly affected because some households are women-headed. And you can imagine the first days when I believe were the days when the city council was in denial. So the people were paying to take their relatives' children to the clinic. And that extra expense took its toll on women. Some actually had to visit the 24-hour clinic to get better services. And the consultations in foreign currency, and even the medication, it was too much for the women, considering that some of them, who are mostly vendors, had lost the source of livelihood because they were now sick and could not continue their businesses. And also, the most touching story that I'll conclude with is the fact that women are vulnerable naturally. Their immune system, especially if you are pregnant as a woman, your immune system will be very weak during that period. I remember one of my colleagues who visited another house and later told me that there was a woman who told her that she was pregnant. And then when she went to the clinic to get treatment at the Luveve clinic, she was given antibiotics. And antibiotics are very strong. And for a pregnant woman, you have to stay away from those. But she was given those, and which led to her miscarrying the baby. and then she later went to Luveve private clinic for a wound to be cleaned, and that's very bad, all because of something that could have been avoided if something could have done earlier. And there was also a woman also narrated that after taking the medication, she's been going on her menses continuously after that. And those are so touching stories for women to be going through that. And it's so sad because as we can consider that the number of deaths that were recorded, although the numbers are conflicting from 13 to 16, the City Council of course will confirm. It's so sad because it's higher than the coronavirus deaths that we were all afraid of. So this is a very scary thing, and women are in the epicenter of the effects of this outbreak. Even girls, if I understand that currently City Council is providing water continuously, which is good, but during the first days, of course, maybe people were now afraid of the water. Maybe girls could go to the bowls to search maybe for water that could have been considered better than the one that was smelling feces, as they would explicitly describe it to the resident, which means going to the bowls, the girl child is losing out on personal study time because the girl child is most likely to be sent to the bowl than the boy child and the like. So I think for me, that's it. And if you continue, it can have actually a long effect on women, on their health, especially the ones who could have been pregnant. It may lead to maternal death rates and the stuff. So the effects may be much more than we know for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abigail. As we speak, 3 of the 6 supply dams to Bulawayo have been decommissioned. And to speak more on that, we'll ask Ubaba Patrick Luveve, who will talk on behalf of the Council of Bulawayo and give us more detail about this. He is the Divisional Environmental Health Officer in the Bulawayo City Council. Over to you, Bob.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe what I would like to say is as a City Council, we pass our deepest condolences to the families that lost their loved ones due to the outbreak. As it is known to everyone, the city is experiencing one of its worst water shortages in living memory. Currently, we are at a 144-hour water shedding program, where people receive maybe water once in 6 days. And you find that all the suburbs are affected. And somehow Luveve was one of those suburbs that was affected. Sometime in May, around about the 17th of May, we did get reports from the local leadership in Luveve, where we were told that there was a diarrhea outbreak in Luveve, and that there were some deaths that had occurred in the suburb. And around about that time, we did set out to go and investigate the deaths. Again, as a city, we've got what we call a disease surveillance system, which is updated like on a weekly basis. It's a weekly disease surveillance system. We also did realize that around that time, the number of diarrhea cases in Luveve and Cowdrey Park went up. But the numbers that were there did not really indicate the problem that was on the ground. We then only realized that the reason why maybe even if we were picking up cases, that the cases had increased. We were not, the number of cases that were coming to the clinic were just a tip of the iceberg. And when we then intensified our efforts, we realized that people were not coming to the clinic because maybe of the user fees. And then the other issue was the issue of the severity of the diarrhea, because like when we did interviews, we then found out that some of the residents whom we had to visit at home were saying that the diarrhea was so severe that they could not even walk to the clinic, because like every time, maybe every other 5 minutes, they would need to rush to the toilet. So that was the reason why maybe the numbers did not increase at the clinic. Then we around May, we did our investigations. We did take water samples from the SEPAP. But unfortunately, around that time, the SEPAP was under water shedding. And at times, to get water samples from the taps was a bit of a challenge. So we also took water samples from the stored water containers, and we sent those to the laboratory for analysis. But the outbreak intensified, and by the beginning of June, number of diarrhea cases increased. Then around the 15th of June, the City Council moved in, and we then unilaterally declared that people were supposed to come to the clinic to seek medical attention. And we set up treatment centers at the clinic, where we were now even treating people from out on the clinic grounds, and we even mobilized staff from our other clinics so that at least we could deal with the numbers that we were recording on a daily basis. Because around the 15th, the week 15 to 19 of June, we were having a clinic attendance of about 200 plus people on a daily basis coming because of the diarrhea. And we gave medication, and then we set up also rapid response teams which went into the neighborhood, because like working with the local leadership, they told us that there were some people who were unable to come to the clinic. So we went into the community where we gave treatment, we put people on drips, and even the ones that came to the clinic where we found that the cases were severe, those people were then being referred to the central hospitals for further management. Then we also set out as a local authority to find out, okay, what could be the cause of the diarrhea. We took samples from the people, that is stool samples. We took water samples from the houses in the area that was affected. And then also as a local authority, because like there were reports that the water was smelly, the water had color, the water had taste. Because like in terms of the World Health Organization standards, drinking water should have certain qualities. That is, it should be colorless, it should be tasteless, it should be odorless. So we did take samples which we then sent to the laboratory. Some of the samples that we analyzed them at our laboratory at Criterion, and the others we enlisted the services of the National University of Science and Technology. And then with the stool samples, we sent some to Bilo Hospital, and some of the samples we sent to a private laboratory. In total, the number of stool samples that we took were 100. And out of the 100 samples, we only had results for 3 of those, for 13 of those. 5 were isolated at a private laboratory, and then 8 were isolated at the National Microbiology Reference Lab in Harare. The laboratory at Mbilo did not have the capacity to find any growth in the stool samples that we sent. And from the results that we got from the samples that had some growth, we found that the results indicated that there was Shigella in 8 of the stool samples that were tested at the National Microbiology Reference Lab in Harare. And then there was also Shigella growth in 4 of the samples that were tested at the private lab. Then one of the samples showed Salmonella typhi. And Salmonella typhi is responsible for typhoid. But now maybe to say there is a typhoid outbreak in Luveve, we needed to have like a consistent maybe analysis showing us like consistent results. Out of the 100, so only 13% of the samples came up with something. And different types of microorganisms. So ideally, we would say with the number that we got, it could have been an issue of a Shigella outbreak than typhoid outbreak. And one thing that we also realized was that it's unfortunate that we lost lives. And when we analyzed, there was that delay in seeking medical attention, because in most of the cases that we had, you find that they came in 2 weeks maybe into the disease. And with diarrheal conditions, you find that the longer you delay to seek treatment, the higher the complications that may result. Well, I understand that maybe the challenge was with the people saying that they could not afford the user fees. But normally, maybe going forward, as a city, we would like to urge the residents that should there be any diarrhea outbreak in an area, or should anyone experience diarrhea-like symptoms, they should make sure that they seek early treatment. And already as a city, we have advised our policymakers, that is our councillors, to advise the residents that should they experience any diarrhea-like symptoms, they should go to the clinic. And then as a city, we will then collect the numbers so that we claim from from central government. Because in any diarrhea, in any outbreak, people get treatment for free, and the local authority then claims from central government. Mm-hmm. Then with water results, with our water results, we took samples, and generally the results that we got were generally satisfactory. And where we had unsatisfactory results, we have spoken to the engineers to rectify the situation. Then also, maybe as an intervention measure, we also had the area in Luveve being exempt from water shedding, and also there was flushing of the systems to ensure that whatever could have infiltrated the pipes is flushed out.
Okay, thank you so much. Nigiwe, as a human rights defender, what are the implications of the Luveve water contamination crisis on human rights and women's rights?
Thank you so much. Good morning, listeners. From the legal point of view, so many rights have been violated as a result of this outbreak. I don't know whether to call it Shigella outbreak or typhoid. I'll leave that to the doctors. But you realize that the right to life has been compromised as a result. Is put in our constitution there in section 58. Everyone has got the right to life and also the right to health care. It's touched in there, and briefly I will just read it out for the benefit of the audience. Every citizen and permanent resident of Zimbabwe has the right to have access to basic healthcare services, including reproductive healthcare services. And what I like about that provision is that it goes even further to say the state must take reasonable legislative and other measures within the limit of the resources available to it to achieve the progressive realization of this right. What it means there is where the city council is failing or is finding challenges, the state has that mandatory duty to go an extra mile, right, to provide for other means. For example, if we are failing as a city to pump out water, then the law is allowing the council to open that up to those who can provide the service. It doesn't limit to the local authority having to do that only. If they are failing, then that provision says we have to be progressive to achieve the progressive realization of that right. It means we have to go forward. But instead, we are going backwards. This water crisis has been a perennial problem, and we are not progressing as a city to actually answer into those challenges. Also, from the presentation by the City Council, my question that arose was, what is happening to the right to access to information? How is that information being disseminated to the citizens in Luveve? How do I know that now I am supposed to go to the clinic without having to pay? Because what has worsened the situation, as the doctor has alluded here, is the delay in seeking medical attention. So the question that arises in my mind is, how is information being disseminated? Because we are not seeing that addressed every day. Like what is happening to COVID, for example, where we are being updated every day. Today there are so many positive cases, right? And this is what has to be done. People are encouraged to sanitize, wash, and all in all. Where is that information? We are not seeing that. So that right really is being violated in the process. Also, the right to administrative justice. It's a right provided in our constitution that the local authority has got that money to provide that water, right? So where you have that duty to do something, it has to be done and see to its fulfillment with diligence, right? And where it's not happening, clearly there's a violation, and what are we doing with that, right? So many other rights that are being violated. Of importance, I will take you to the right to food and water, which is very specific in section 77 there of the Constitution. It says every person has the right to safe, clean and potable water. To me, there's no doubt that right has been violated. And what it means is people have been affected. It's a human rights crisis, right? If we no longer have safe, clean and potable water, our right to life has been what? Has been affected. Worse for women, as she has alluded to earlier on. Being the caregivers and you don't have water to clean up, to do whatever, really it's a sad human rights story that is being written in Luveve. I'll go further in that right to water. Again, the supreme law of the land says the state must take legislative and other measures within the limits of the resources available to it to achieve the progressive realization of this right. Again, that provision is surfacing. It means we have to go out of the normal way. if people are continuing to die in Luveve and the resources within us are not permitting, the law is allowing you to go a step further. If there are private institutions that can provide clean water, so be it. What is so wrong with the situation in water situation in Bulawayo that it has to be a perennial problem? Year after year, we have to have problems with water. Why? Because we're not willing to go that step further beyond Section 77 and achieve the progressive realization of that right. I can speak and speak, but at the moment I would like to entertain questions because clearly rights have been violated.
Okay. Thank you. My question is, I would love to find out from Abigail, what would the women, or what would you as Gopra love to see happen in Luveve?
Thank you. I'll speak on behalf of women, and it is very true, like to say something has to be done. And City Council has to start being more proactive than being reactive. Because if we look at the situation, this problem could have been solved before. I heard the PC representative saying that the deaths maybe could have occurred because people delayed going to the hospital. I think it would be really unfair to push that blame on the residents, because residents actually spoke to us that they went to the housing office on the 18th of May, just after the incidents, but they were told that they don't pay rates and they don't deserve to demand services. If a city council had actually reacted immediately, that could have been averted. So, and we also like to say, if because of this outbreak, there is need for the water quality control to be done. Like, I don't know how they do it, whether they do it weekly, monthly, whatever the situation with the city council, but it has to be taken like more frequently now, because there are other places which were affected by the poor water quality besides Luveve, like the likes of Popo and Luveve. So we'd like City Council to even honor up, as she spoke about the right to information, to honor up and update the people of Bulawayo, the nation, on what is happening. Because we're hearing from grapevine to say this is this, if the residents say this, City Council, no, the numbers are not correct. So we'd like City Council to come forward with the information, inform the residents, let the residents be informed, and do something about the current situation, solve the water problem, constantly monitor the quality of water to avoid such loss of life, which is very sad for the people of Bulawayo.
I will ask you again, do you think there is still confidence in the City Council and their service provision?
Currently in Luveve, it's totally no. And you would recall that BCC, I remember when I started local governance back then, you hear that BCC, it was being used as an example, is the best run local authority. But I stand to differ. Maybe I would say maybe it's the best in a special class for now. Because imagine water with such odors and tissue particles and stuff, and the people have lost confidence in the water, especially in Luveve in this instance. And even in other areas, actually for myself, now I have to look for water cut because I no longer trust the water, staying very far from Luveve, but the confidence has been lost. And this exacerbates even a cost to the residents, because in Luveve, some of them now buy water for drinking, especially those who have got infants, and others now collect water as far as Nkulumani from their relatives, and imagine that is its cost. And so the confidence is actually shattering, and City Council has to stand up to make sure that people gain trust again from City Council water and other services. Thank you.
Okay. So Patrick, my question then to you, having heard what she has to say about the loss of confidence, is now, before we went on live, when we say typhoid, you came up in defense and said it's not a typhoid outbreak according to the results that you have.
Yes.
Now I've learned a new word, shigella. I didn't know what a shigella was, but now I know it.
Okay.
From when alarm was raised in May,
Yes.
there's been back and forth. And then we heard this past week, I think beginning of the week, government came and said that tests have been done and some human feces was found in the pipe. Something happened with the pipe, or I think a mix-up or something happened. So from where the water left, it was clean, but when it arrived, something had happened. And then having seen His Worship the Mayor and the councillors going to Luveve this week to go and see and talk and probably pass their condolences as well, that is not coming out, and you have not also said that. What happened with that water? In all honesty, what happened with that water? That's my number one question to you. My number two question is, it is reported that the council needs 1.5 million to address the problem of contamination in that affected area. But I stay in Bulawayo Central. Should I be worried? Should other wards and other areas in Bulawayo be worried about the water quality?
Okay, thank you. Maybe all the problems that we have currently hinge on the availability of raw water, which we know right now as we speak, the total capacity of our dams is at 26%, and we are just midway through the year, and we are maybe left with another 6 months before we have any meaningful rains. So with that already, it puts the council in a precarious position in terms of maybe how we manage our water. And you'll find that maybe all these problems, they surfaced when we migrated from maybe our 96-hour water shedding to our 144-hour water shedding. And normally what happens is that we've got a water reticulation system and a wastewater reticulation system. If you are going to have water being shedded for maybe 6 days, what happens? You empty the pipe. You create a vacuum in the pipe, isn't it? And already when maybe water is treated, because we treat all the water, all the raw water that comes into the city. We treat it either at our treatment plants at NEMA, or we treat it at Criterion Waterworks. So when we treat the water, maybe in good times, when we have our water is in abundance, we treat the water, and then it's then pumped to the reservoirs, then it goes to the suburbs. What happens is that if you look at the water that leaves the treatment plant and the water that finally reaches the people, there is water that is lost along the way because one of the age of our pipes, which means now our pipes also allow water they allow water to be lost along the way. Now you have a situation where now you have that pipe which now allows water to escape, isn't it? And then now you have that pipe being empty, creates a vacuum. And then when you have maybe the pipe passing through maybe a portion where there is maybe a sewer burst or so, there is likelihood that there could be infiltration. Maybe when the samples that were taken, because those samples, the ones that were said to have had human matter in them, they were taken by another agency. Unfortunately, they did not share the results with us. We saw the results now when they put them in the press. So it could have been one of those issues. And that's why we are saying, okay, we need maybe that 1.5 million estate to make sure that we replace the aged pipes. Yes, that's a challenge in the city where we say, okay, our pipe network is also aged. It needs replacement. Because when you talk of water infrastructure, you're also talking of water infrastructure which is maybe more than 40 years. And some of the pipes are asbestos cement pipes, and they are prone to burst whenever maybe there is the closing and opening of the water during water shedding. So yes, definitely we do have that challenge. Then on the issue of water quality monitoring, yes, we have a routine for our water quality monitoring. We have 100 sampling points in the city where we monitor water, and samples are taken at least fortnightly from each and every point in the 100 sampling points. And these points are distributed in such a way that they are representative of all the suburbs in the city. There is no deliberate ploy by the local authority to pump untreated water, which does not happen. Like, we don't pump untreated water. Yes, but along the way, there can be the water-based and then the infiltration. And then also the issue of maybe where our pipes are aged. So people shouldn't really get to a point where now they think we don't care about their health. We definitely do care about the health of people, and the Water Council strives at all times to ensure that the water that eventually comes out of your tap is water that meets the Standards Association of Zimbabwe standards, the World Health Organization standards for drinking water. And maybe what we could scale up on would be the issue of information dissemination, where people get to know that if they complain, we come, we take a sample, we advise them on what is exactly in their water. Because apart from the routine sampling on the 100 points, on the 100 sampling points, we also do complaint investigations where people complain and say, okay, our water has taste, color, smell. We go there, we investigate, and then we advise people on the results. Then on the issue of maybe where people went and were told that they should drink whatever water they should drink, I think it was mischievous on the officers who would have said that. And maybe I would want to advise the residents that if they don't get joy from maybe the offices where they report some of the issues pertaining to service delivery, they can escalate that. At the end of maybe the program, I would also maybe give the call center numbers, because at least once you put your complaint to the call center, it will be given a reference and you can follow up through the call center. So maybe on trusting the water for the city of Bulawayo. Yes, I can tell you, I can vouch for it, trust our water. When you are not sure, especially maybe where, if just as a precautionary measure, let's boil the water. Because I know that after 6 days, you may take the water, store it. Yeah. After 6 days, it's of storage in a container. Anything can happen. And even at times, we will be with our children. You never know. You put your bucket there, they may decide to use the cup. So maybe let's boil the water for drinking. Aqua taps, water guard. I won't really encourage people to use that on municipal water. The reason being that when we treat our water, we add chlorine. And when it gets to the consumer point, there is the residual chlorine that is still there. So if you add water guard, you could be raising the level of chlorine in the water. And a raised level of chlorine could also culminate in people having stomach challenges, where now maybe people start experiencing diarrhea and the like.
Okay.
Yes.
My other question to you, Patrick, is as it stands, what are the figures? according to the council, of fatalities and of cases that have been reported of Shigella?
Okay, as it stands, the figures that have gone through the clinic and gone to the central hospital, the figures stand at 1,871. And then the deaths, they stand at 13. But out of those 13, 10 are confirmed to have died, to have had diarrhea prior to death. Then 3, one of the 3 deaths, when we went to do our interviews, because after we got the reports, we then also went to the community to find out exactly what happened. Because the 3 deaths were community deaths which were attended by the police. So we went to the police station, they gave us the addresses, then we visited the homes. One of the deaths there, it was a male who complained of chest and back pains before they died. And then the other 2, we went to the premises. We failed to get any information because there were no people at the premises. So the ones that were attributed to diarrhea are 10. So 13 in total, and 1,871 cases that we have seen so far in the clinic and in the hospital.
Okay, thank you. Nigiwe, having heard all this,
Yes.
what, in your opinion, would have been the right way to resolve this before we got to over 1.8 cases and lost, say, 13 lives?
Yes. We could have been more accountable and taken responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
The level of responsiveness failed the people in Luveve. From the onset, if the council had nipped it from the bud where these women took water to the council to say our water is has got color, has got smell, then something could have been done, and we wouldn't have reached those numbers hoping. Also, talking of accountability and dissemination of information, had council communicated earlier to say watch out for the water, go to the clinics earlier to get checked. I'm sure we could have somehow avoided some of the deaths, because on the ground what we have seen is people are pale, lips are red, lips are cracking. You can tell this thing has taken its toll, it has gone too far because there hasn't been access to medical treatment maybe on time. So had action been taken earlier, I think we could have avoided so many challenges. Also speaking into the long-term things that we need to do maybe as a city. We know that this water problem, he's talking of City Council not having adequate bulk water to treat and then pump to the residents. Surely this is where we are supposed to categorize the solution and say from the long term, the challenge is getting the bulk water to treat and then pump. So who has the mandate to pump the bulk water? It's Zino. Zino, why is Bulawayo not getting bulk water? Right? Once that is answered, and then council, once water is pumped into your pipes, now it's your responsibility. How do we then make sure the residents get clean water? We are saying the pipes are old. If the pipes are old, the solution is to replace. If the solution is to replace and we don't have money, then how do we then look into the funding issues? Because if we are saying Bulawayo, I don't know the population right now, and we say per household provide so much, or we reserve so much and replace those pipes, then we are looking into the long-term solutions of that problem. But looking at isolating Luveve out now, I'm sure they use the reservoir from Magwekwe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So the reason why it then comes to Luveve, if it's an issue of pipes and we're looking at that small portion, then we should isolate out that issue and say, okay, let's look into our pipes. The most touching thing with Luveve is people don't have information. information is not being given to them. They don't even know why is our water having feces in them. The answer may be a sewer pipe has burst into a freshwater pipe, right? At what point and whatever, it's up to council to then establish that. So if then information is not easily accessible, how are we going to solve this problem? Then we have a challenge there. We really have to establish a center where information can easily be accessed by the Luveve community, to say even if the water is being brought into the Bowsers right now, the water is now accessible. They are just seeing from the tap, the red tap is running continuously. They are not even aware the policy has changed, right? It's like we have to accept every time a problem arises, you have to accept this is what is now there, this is what is now, but we can do things better as a city. Let's get the information to the people. The rapid response team is on the ground. Please cooperate with them. This is what is going to be happening. There are radios that we can use. There's so much of media. This day, social media is so easily accessible. We can disseminate that information to say, these people will now be in this road. Please cooperate with them. If you have these kind of challenges, go to the clinic. You'll be attended to for free without you having to pay the consultation fees. Then once that information is disseminated, then people know what to do. Than having them to have their rights violated because there's something that they did not do that is really not fair. Right now we're talking of Shigella, we're talking of typhoid. Yes, we're not saying teach us the medicine, part of the things. We're saying let's have that information. Tell me, is this Shigella, is this typhoid? What are the implications to the people? They are already sick. At least you have to know. She has mentioned that women have miscarried because they've been given antibiotics and they are pregnant, right? So who's to blame there? Who's taking accountability there? Right? Someone has lost a baby because they were not supposed to take antibiotics. You can tell there's something wrong. There's really something wrong. And I think our authorities have to take this a step further. Yes, Bulawayo was the best run city. We can still attain that status. We really want to cooperate with the council, but it is the rejection or the not telling the truth part of it that has really agitated most institutions, right? If it's not typhoid, but there's salmonella typhi that has been found, what are the implications? What are you saying? Are you saying there's no typhoid? It's Shigella. If it's Shigella, what are the implications? What are the symptoms, right? We are so out there as a nation with a COVID. These are the likely symptoms. They keep on adding, eh? Every day they keep on adding. We are not having that such a channel where we can be told, Shigella, these are the symptoms. Watch out for this, watch out for that. So that it's like we don't value life, so to speak. It's a high time we value life, and every life has to count and every life has to matter in Luveve. Let's tell the people the rightful things at the rightful time. We could avoid so many deaths.
Thank you for raising the issue again about the information dissemination. Abigail, I'll ask you, how is the information reaching residents in Luveve? And on that same question, I'll ask Patrick Uti, what channels are being used to get information to the residents from the council? I know if there's going to be a demonstration or there's going to be something, even now with COVID, like I said, I'm in Lower Central, there are cars that go up and down with the megaphone. Over and over, you will hear it until you don't want to hear it. So your question is, what forms of communication are being used now? How are people getting this information? And then what information is the council actually using to get the message out? So I think I'll start with you.
Okay, thank you. Currently, as UPRA, we communicate with the residents through our ward-based structures, which are there in Luveve. They are very active and they communicate currently, because that's when we heard about the situation, they reported to the organization. And we also have an active WhatsApp group, Twitter, where we communicate about the cases, the symptoms, what is going on. And we've been using those channels, like especially our very active WhatsApp group, to communicate the little information that we're getting from Bulawayo City Council. And I think the greater onus is on the City Council to disseminate the information, because once we went to Luveve, we saw some cars, they were distributing buckets, whatsoever, but I don't remember them saying anything to the residents about the symptoms and the stuff. There are organizations, some people are being given stuff and all, but information on the cautionary measures to take and the stuff, I think there's a little bit of that being happening. And the greater reason I personally believe could be because the City Council has been in denial, but now that they've done some tests and some degree of responsibility, maybe they can start actually escalating the level of information dissemination to the residents.
Okay. Patrick?
Okay, thank you very much. The way that we've been disseminating information, we've got our risk communication officers, the health promotion staff. We've been going out in the community. Like I said, we've got our rapid response teams. There are multidisciplinary teams where you have an environmental health practitioner, a clinician, and a health promotion officer. We've been visiting people, like doing our door-to-door visits, where we talk to the people about diarrhea, the causes of diarrhea. We talk to the people about how to prevent diarrhea. We talk to the people about early treatment-seeking behavior, where we say people should, the moment they have symptoms, they should visit the clinic. Then we also have a mayor's update that is there on a weekly basis, where the mayor gets the report on the COVID status of the city, the gastrointestinal disease statistics for the city, and he gives that to the stakeholders. When the issue of maybe using megaphones, we did not go out at that time because there was maybe it was not the ideal time, looking at maybe the tensions that maybe were there when the outbreak was at its height. But what I would want to really applaud is the understanding nature of the people of Luveve. Because despite the outbreak, I feel they acted very mature. Because we didn't really experience a backlash, really. Because even when you went there to talk to them, even during their time of suffering, they did accept what we had to say. I think it's really humbling for us as a local authority. Maybe points have been taken that we could improve on our information dissemination, and already measures have been put in place, because this is not an isolated case where we are saying Luveve is going to be hit by an outbreak and then we think that Bopoma, Gulumana are not going to be hit, because what Luveve is experiencing is exactly what Gulumani and other suburbs are experiencing. So we've scaled up, and definitely you'll be seeing a lot of these messages on prevention of diarrhea, on maybe improving personal hygiene and all the likes. People going to seek treatment early from the hospitals and the health facilities, and also the waiver of fees. Because really, like maybe the waiver of water shedding will not be easy to say you can waiver water shedding, because the water is literally not there.
We're still taking your questions on our social media platform. And before I read the comment that is here, I want to find out, maybe between Bupra and Lower City Council, is there a possibility of maybe working together, seeing as both are working for the same team? Is there a possibility?
We as the City Council, we work with all stakeholders, because that's where we also have our value of consultation, where we consult, and we believe that everyone is welcome to come in and proffer their ideas, and we will follow up the ideas. Because right now in the Luveve intervention, you find that we're working with a lot of partners. So definitely, as a local authority, we're willing to work with anybody.
Anything from you?
Yes, on the side of Bupra, we are already working. We believe that we work with the City Council. We're in a partnership. We're both in local governance, because apart from demanding good service delivery, we also complement the City Council, like encouraging residents, like you mentioned that the funds are the problem. We encourage residents to pay their rates, and we also have a program whereby we teach residents on water conservation, to say how do we conserve the little resource that we have. So I guess we are already working with the City Council. The challenges have been that in the situation, the City Council was in denial at first, but right now, as you had seen that even the court case that was there, the reason that it was withdrawn is because there was an agreement that we reached, because we are working together.
Okay. All right, so we have a comment and questions here from Odisi Ziba. She says, what guarantee are the city fathers giving to the residents that this will never happen again, considering that water is more than needed now during the coronavirus pandemic? Question 2, what kind of support has been given to the families who have lost their loved ones due to this crisis?
As a local authority, like I said before, we strive to ensure that people get quality service. But we cannot count out maybe the issue of births, but definitely we are on high alert for all these maybe eventualities, and we also encourage the residents that should they experience maybe water that is of unacceptable quality, if they can make sure that they promptly report and we take remedial action as soon as possible. And then on the issue of maybe the support for families that have lost their loved ones, there is a process that has to be taken where when an outbreak is declared, the Civil Protection Unit then takes over, and it's the one then declares that this is a disaster, and then the protocols are then followed, and then the support is then given to those families. So that process it will be taken. The council will take it through to the relevant authorities.
Okay. Nigiwe, the question is, do residents know their rights? Because you are cited to be reading from the Constitution and you seem to know all the sections, but do the residents know their rights? And whose mandate is it to also maybe remind the residents, I don't want to say teach because maybe some of them know, but to remind them of what their rights are, like you're saying, clean water information?
Thank you. That's a challenging question, but the answer is it's everyone's right to know their rights, right? Find information, know what is due to you, know how you're supposed to be treated. Reading the Constitution is not a lawyer's job. It's everyone's mandate. We have to know our rights so that we are able to question things when they don't happen the way they are supposed to happen. We may not be doing enough as the legal fraternity, but that mandate is with everyone. That is with everyone. You should definitely know, because no one teaches people go and get a birth certificate for a child. we already know once a child is born, they are supposed to be documented. So in our day-to-day living, these are part of the things that we ignore, but that we should know, that we should find information, read these laws. They are for everyone. They are not only for the legal fraternity.
Okay. Part of BUPRA, you say you have communication with residents. Could it perhaps be something that you also do as an organization to give people, to remind people what their rights are and to demand the services that they're entitled to?
Yes, it is definitely part of the work of BUPRA to remind residents of their rights, because most services provided, especially by Bulawayo City Council, they are to do with rights. Yeah. So, like if you look at health, there's the right to life there, access to health, the right to education, also to schools, the right to water. So we do constantly educate residents on their rights, and it is also even a responsibility of other organizations in Bulawayo, other civil society organizations, to come in and constantly remind the residents of their right, despite the fact that because of the economic situation, people's interests is swayed away from the rights-based issues to bread and butter issues. But it is our duty to constantly, as civil society, remind the public of their rights and how they can claim those rights, and ensure that responsible authorities ensure that residents are not violated of their rights.
Okay. Patrick, the question is, during this drought period that we're going through, is the City Council still cleaning dams?
Well, I think it's an issue where people have always thought that maybe the reason why we don't have enough water is because of the siltation. But stakeholders have been taken on visits to the dams. And from those visits, it has always come out that the dams are not silted. Because if you look at the pumping points in the dams, it shows that the dams are not silted. So there is nothing to clean up, to clean in the dams. The only thing that we have to do is pray for rains and get more rain.
Nigiwa's face was very expressive.
Yes.
Nigiwa's face was, she couldn't even hide her.
Okay, it's the first time that I have heard about that, that there's no siltation in our dams. My question has always been, whose mandate is it to scoop the dams if there's siltation? Because there's been talk of gold panners, panning for gold and blocking the way for the water, and then the siltation then flows into our dams, and that's why maybe their holding capacity has been compromised. You know, so many theories have come up. So my question really has been, whose mandate is it? Are these city council dams where that happens, or these are Zima dams? So if they are Zima dams, I've been thinking the mandate is with the Zima. So if that's really new to me to hear that.
No, well, there's no siltation really. Yes, maybe there's been destruction of the water courses that are supposed to feed those dams because of the gold panning. But really, if you go to the dam proper, you'll find, especially right now when the dams have been decommissioned, you go there, you look at the takeoff points for pumping of water, you'll find that all of them are exposed, showing, because like if there was siltation, you should be finding that some of them are clogged. So maybe it's more of climate change and maybe destruction of the water courses that feed those dams.
Okay. Do we have any timelines from the City Council? There has been talk of changing the pipes. And is there any timeline?
Well, that one really, the relevant office would be our engineers, because like they have like a programs of works for the rehabilitation of the infrastructure.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. No, City Council Ukanya UFA is everyone is here to get you. What's the way forward now, knowing what you know? And would you have done anything differently with the situation in Luveve?
Well, the way forward now is, okay, we now treading a caution, because all along our system has been watertight. There haven't been any breaches like in our system, because like we have always prided ourselves with having the best water quality, where you could actually drink from the tap. But maybe because of the challenges that we have right now, maybe there is that need for us to tread with caution. We will, apart from, because at the end of the day, what is needed really is an infrastructure rehabilitation to ensure that, okay, our pipes, there is no infiltration, to scale up our water testing. Then maybe the issue of bulk raw water, which maybe is not within the powers of the local authority, knowing that the water rights and everything, how it's done. Then the other thing is maybe to advise the residents that where they have challenges with the service delivery, they report that as soon as possible. And where there are water challenges in terms of the quality, they make sure that they report those, and we deal with the issue as soon as possible before we get to an outbreak situation. Well, having known, knowing what we know now, what we would have done better was maybe ensure that we are with the residents and listen to what they say, and make sure that we work with them.
All right. We're still taking your questions. This conversation is for all of us. It is our city, and these are our rights, that we get clean water and services provided. I will take it to you, Nigu. I think then we'll go this way. In closing, what would you like to say?
Thank you for that opportunity. I would like to encourage our local authority, our city fathers, and remind them of the principles of good governance as enshrined in the Constitution of Zimbabwe, Section 3G. These are very simple: accountability, effectiveness and efficiency, transparency and responsiveness, as well as justice. In all your dealings in service provision, if these can be put up front, and we prioritize the right to life, because every life in Bulawayo matters. These water holes have gone for too long. Let's look into water harvesting solutions, even running water harvesting solutions. Let's look into those long-term, short-term, and work with the residents. Inform us and we will understand. Bulawayo has so many understanding people, but let's not take that for granted and have so many lives lost in the process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. In closing, I would like to say the City Council has to take responsibility. Like it said, that if people have to be compensated, like another few acts, it's the Civil Protection Department, but they have to make the follow-up, because the problem emanated from their poor service delivery.
Oh, sorry, just to clarify for Odysseus, is the one that asked that question. So who follows up? So maybe you need to explain that to her so that she understands.
I believe that City Council should follow up the process to ensure that due diligence is taken into place for the families that were affected. And also, we all know that prevention, the cost of prevention is lesser than the cost of cure. So should the City Council have reacted fast to the residents' concern, we could have avoided this loss of life. So I would encourage City Council, as is already acknowledged, to say they have to work with the residents. The residents is the major stakeholder for Bulawayo City Council, and they have to work with them to ensure that we all have the Bulawayo that we had all these years that we've been breaking for across Zimbabwe. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. My parting words would be that as a local authority, we pledge to continue to give people quality service. Where there is any diversion from the quality service, residents are encouraged to ensure that they report any diversions so that there will be prompt action to remedy the situation. And we encourage residents to ensure that they, whenever there are any disease outbreaks, they seek early medical attention so that we avoid any unnecessary loss of life. Life is precious, and so we should safeguard it. Thank you.
You had promised that you'd give us hotline numbers.
Okay, thank you. I'll give you the hotline numbers.
So that people know how to reach out in case they go to their local office and, as Abigail said, they are told that they are not paying rates, therefore they are not deserving of any service delivery.
Okay. That's what I would like to answer.
So while he looks at that, we will encourage you to continue this conversation. It's not just a conversation that starts and ends here with this panel. It's a conversation that we need to take to our homes, and we discuss how we can demand better service delivery from our city fathers and where to go if we feel that we're being shortchanged. Do you have the numbers?
Yes, I've got the numbers. I've got the call center numbers. The call center is manned 24/7. And I've got the following call center numbers. We've got, the first number is 08084700. And this one you can use, it's a toll-free number. You can use your Econet line. And then we've got the other number, which is 08004700. And that is a Tel 1 line, Tel 1 only. Then we've got the other number, all networks. It's 0292 271290. Then our WhatsApp number, it's 0774 668 432. And that's WhatsApp only.
So maybe can you repeat the WhatsApp number?
Okay, the WhatsApp number is 0774 668 432. That's WhatsApp number only.
So when someone has a fault, a problem, that's the one that's sent?
Yes, they send to this WhatsApp number, and then it will be sent to the relevant section so that they attend to your complaints. And
do I get a reference number back?
Yes, you get a reference number. Okay. For all complaints that you lodge through the call center, you get a reference number. So that when you want to follow up, you use that reference number.
Even with the WhatsApp number?
Yes. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much for being with us today at this Women's Roundtable Discussion, where we're talking about the typhoid, Chigela, diarrhea breakout in Luveve. I don't know which one it is. Patrick Luveve from the City Council is adamant that we are not yet in a typhoid stage. There is still investigations that are still ongoing. Abigail, not so convinced. She has, even her face says it. And so our guest today, we had Unigiwe Mubetabalala, who's a human rights defender. We had Abigail Siziba from BUPRA, the gender officer, and we had Patrick Mube, the Divisional Environmental Health Officer from Bulawayo City Council. Thank you so much, and like I said, the conversation continues wherever we are. And don't forget to like, share, follow, subscribe to all CITE platforms so that you are always up to date with what is happening. Thank you so much. Good morning.